The Shinsengumi, once solid, now wavered. What would happen to them? What would happen to the Fury Corps? Men were forced to watch as their friends became the undead monsters known as Furies. Was it any wonder that they found themselves conflicted, or that tempers began to rise? Several days later, the order was given to begin the Imperial Restoration. The Emperor would be restored to power, and his court would once again rule the nation. The position of shogun would be abolished, and Kyoto's military and judiciary commissioner positions would be eliminated. All that the Shinsengumi had fought for and believed in was falling to pieces. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Tumultuous times. Chapter 5! The final chapter for this game! I'm not ready. Oh my god, I can't believe we're here already! Ah! December 1867. As the order to begin Imperial Restoration came, Satsuma and Choshu troops started occupying the city of Kyoto. At the same time, members and affiliates of the Tokugawa shogunate were being removed from the Imperial Palace, and eventually Kyoto altogether. They, as expected, did not take this lightly. In response, the shogunate's military forces were beginning to march from Edo to Kyoto. As tensions rose from the approaching shogunate armies, the Satsuma and Choshu were preparing their own forces for a hostile confrontation. The situation was growing increasingly frenzied. As the shogunate scrambled to call upon their remaining allies, the Shinsengumi received an order to come to the Fushimi magistrate. Having all of their men and armaments gathered in, the Fushimi magistrate enabled the shogunate to act in the event of an emergency, so off we went. On one such day, during the commotion, I just realized we're not going to be spending our time at night anymore because our boo's not a fury right at the moment. So we're actually getting like decent sleep. So hooray for us at least. Hey, bad news guys! The chief's been attacked! Bad news was delivered to the Fushimi magistrate. There had been no witnesses and the culprit escaped unseen. Their motives could only be guessed.
What the hell? Who the hell could have shot him? Let's go. Anyone who's free, come with me.
Nagakura got a crew of warriors together, and they all headed towards the location where Kondo was shot. Kondo's gunshot wound was on his right shoulder. The bullet pierced clean through him, shattering the bone, which required more treatment than I could have given him at the compounds. I was sweeping up the common room when...
Oh, Yukimura. Are you still awake at this hour?
Oh, Sanan. We just return our O's. Oh, Yukimura. Oh, Sanan. Did you have any business here? If you're going to use this room, I'll leave.
Oh, I don't mind. Rather, I think it's better that you are here for it.
Huh? His words perplexed me, so I felt a little anxious. Just then. The most prominent Shinsengumi captains began filing into the common room. What were they about to discuss? My anxiety was starting to grow stronger.
Seems like everyone's here.
I don't see Okita.
He doesn't need to hear this. If Soji gets involved, he wouldn't think twice about his safety, and he'll go straight for vengeance for Kondo.
But if that is what he desires, why wouldn't you let him do so? As usual, you're too kind, Hijikata.
That boy is dying, okay? Has nobody found out that he's dying yet? Like, come on. This poor boy.
So, what do you want from us? There's no telling when war will finally erupt, and for us to gather here right now, don't tell me.
It is exactly as you are thinking. I asked you all to gather here today with the intention of giving something to you.
Are you gonna try and make them all Furies? Sanan? You cray-cray. In his hands was an object wrapped in a fine cloth that he slowly unwrapped before all of us. As I saw what was inside of his hands, I gasped and clasped my hands over my mouth.
The water of life.
Exactly. As captains of the Shinsengumi, we all took on the risks of researching this serum. As such, it is necessary for us to take responsibility for this experiment. Especially if, like Kondo, any one of you becomes injured or maimed to the point you cannot fight. Or in the worst case, there is a possibility that your life is gravely threatened. I know for certain that this serum will be of use to you.
Sanan, are you trying to experiment on us too now?
I know what you're thinking, but under the current circumstances, we cannot afford to lose any more captains.
Screw that! I don't want to depend on that crap just to survive.
Nagakura barked his indignation to Sanan's proposal and he stormed off. Go, Nagakura!
Perhaps we can call it a good luck charm. Personally, I pray that it shall never come to any of us drinking this serum.
Inoue spoke softly as his fingers pinched the vial and held it close to his eyes.
I will borrow this. Well, I don't think I'll ever use it, but I'll hold on to it. Just in case, of course.
Okay, so he's not saying you guys should drink it, like, right this minute, but you should have a vial on hand if the need arises. I guess so? I guess you need to decide now, would you take the serum if your life depended on it? And then if you would, you might as well have a vial on hand instead of, you know, risking dying before you get back to the compound to make your decision then. Both Saito and Harada grabbed a vial and they slipped it into their respective pockets.
Hijikata.
Up until now, Hijikata had crossed his arms and silently observed Sanan's speech.
We gotta take responsibility, huh? Well, you're onto something.
His eyes looked troubled, but he reached for the serum and slipped it into his pocket as well.
Well, I believe that does it for tonight. I just pray that my courtesy will not go to waste.
After Sanan had finished, the captains all bowed and left the room, and Sanan turned towards me.
Yukimura, I am certain you are aware of this. But do not let word of tonight get out to any other warrior. Do I make myself clear?
Timidly, I nodded my head, and Sanan waited for a second before nodding silently and leaving the room. What could I do? The serum created by my father was now in the hands of the captains. I shuddered at the thought of them drinking it.
We still haven't figured out who attacked the chief. I'll bet you anything it's those bastards from that Satsuma Choshu alliance.
Ever since the attack on Kondo, the atmosphere at the Fushimi magistrate's office had been tense to say the least. I felt it increase as I stepped into the meeting room carrying tea for the captains. Here's your tea.
Oh, thanks. Could you just leave it here?
I seem to have walked in on a serious discussion. All around the room were tense, drawn faces.
So what's your plan? The Satsuma Choshu alliance wants power in the court, but they're also hoping the Emperor grants them all the shogunate's assets and holdings. There's no other way to look at it. They're trying to start a war. We'd be smart to start preparing for one. You have a point. They've been sucking up to the Emperor, and they come and go at the palace like they own the place. Now, so far as preparing for war. Sanan has been pushing hard to augment the Fury Corps.
A memory of the other day came back to me. Sanan offered the water of life to all the captains, and they accepted it.
I'm against that. This is war, not subduing the odd Ronin. There are going to be enemies and allies everywhere in battle. I don't think we'll be able to control them. They're powerful, but it's too risky. Agreed. Besides, it's inhumane. Then what do you suggest? If you wish to disapprove, you should offer an alternate path. We're working on that. If it was so easy to come up with a solution, you really think we'd be in this mess? What's your take on this, Commander?
Hijikata furrowed his brow and frowned.
Let me think about it. We need to see what the Satsuma and Choshu are going to do, and we have to consider what the shogunate wants.
We're taking a long time to deliver this tea. Kondo's injury had put everyone on edge, especially with the war inching closer day by day. What was going to become of the Shinsengumi, as well as the Fury Corps? Finally. Oh. Just a small town boy! Ah. That's the achievement we got, by the way, just now. I was trying to think how I could incorporate it into what's happening right now, and no other lyric was coming to mind. Oh well. That night, I had visited Okita's room to check up on his condition. Aw, visiting our old boo. Good evening, Okita. How are you feeling? Huh? Heisuke. I arrived to find that Heisuke had also come to visit Okita to pass the time. Oh, hey, Chizuru. What are you doing up so late? What do you mean? People might get the wrong idea if they see a girl visiting a man's room in the middle of the night. Nobody knows I'm a lady. Oh, Heisuke. You're smarter than that. You know Okita and I aren't... You know... friends with benefits. In that way. That was last time. Yeah, I guess you have a point. That's not really your sort of thing, is it? Hey, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Come on. Soji's like, I don't appreciate the insinuations going on here. Could you guys leave? So why are you here? I assume you've got a reason for visiting me in the middle of the night. Oh, I came to check up on you, Okita. So are you feeling okay? Is there anything you want to eat? Of course not. Look at what's going on. I suppose. That's all, then. Why don't you turn around now? Oh, no, Okita had been acting more aggressively than I had anticipated, so it kinda took me aback, but I had to bring up the subject on my mind. Do you guys know that, Sanan wants to augment the Fury Corps? Yeah, of course. Well, if you were in Sanan's position, wouldn't you do the same thing? The Fury Corps needs to gain numbers, or they'll never make a name for themselves. I mean, it's a given that once they're deemed useless, they'll be cut off. Cut off? No. What? Wait, are you surprised? You think we're some Samaritans with handouts for every mouth to feed around here? I mean, sure, you mooched off of us for 4 years, but that was your luck. Don't ever forget it. Oh, I suppose you have a point. I'm sorry. Soji, you're being a jackass. It was our fault that she was put into solitary confinement within our compounds. Heisuke interjected with stern words, and Okita sneered in his direction. Clearly unmoved by Heisuke's defense in my favor, Okita kept harping on about his grievances. You know what? You are rude, and I miss you still, so darn it. What the hell is Hijikata even doing? He should be kicking himself in the ass that he hasn't already killed the men who hurt Kondo. If I wasn't like this, I'd pick up my sword right now and go get revenge for Kondo. Okita's bed rest was clearly rankling him. After all, he'd known Kondo for a long time, long before the beginning of the Shinsengumi in Edo. What do you think, Heisuke?
Me? Well, I did decide to drink the water of life, but I'm not gonna lie, I was worried about what would happen to me. Sanan says we should have more men in the Fury Corps. He says we'll never win otherwise. But I also don't like the idea of forcing men, who may not have even broken our code, to drink the water of life either.
Oh. He was so unlike the Heisuke I remembered, so stern and cold. I couldn't help but feel sad, too. Well, no matter what Sanan says, at the end of the day it's going to be Hijikata who makes the call.
You're right. But the Fury Corps already exists. We can't pretend it doesn't.
Then maybe Sanon's right, and we should use the Fury Corps however we see fit. At least they can still wield swords. Perhaps we could use the Furies as a weapon. They might help us to win the coming war. Their strength would be an undeniable military asset. But once the war was over, what would become of them? I was afraid to ask that question because I feared I already knew the answer. Man. What a interesting scene. I was not expecting to get that with those two boys on this route, but... Well, speaking of this route, we are in the last chapter. I should check my, my blossoms. Ah! Look at the full bloom of blossoms. I'm so proud of us. The next day, an unexpected visitor arrived. Oh! Oh! Well, hello, you two. I was not expecting to see you guys again.
Hello, Chizuru. It's been far too long.
Sen? Why are you here? And Kimigiku's here, too.
We've business with the chief. Can you go get him for us?
Oh. Kondo isn't in good enough shape to speak to anyone. Perhaps Hijikata.
Then Hijikata will serve admirably.
Alright, please, come inside. I wonder what kind of business they could have had to discuss that brought them to us at such a late hour. I felt uneasy as we headed towards Hijikata, who was at the magistrate. What could they possibly want to talk about?
Huh. What an unexpected guest. We don't usually allow visitors in here. What do you want?
My apologies for intruding, but it was imperative that I speak with you today.
I'll go make some tea.
No, thank you, but that's not necessary. I shall take my leave as soon as I am finished. And in fact, I would prefer you stay. You may wish to hear this as well.
Okay. What did she have to say that was so important, and that might be something I should hear? I sat down in a corner and listened intently.
I have come to discuss your Furies.
When he heard the word Furies, I saw his face twitch.
I will get straight to the point. How much longer will you employ them?
What do you mean?
You've kept them enslaved for quite some time. I believe you know exactly what I mean. The Furies are a failed experiment. Even the Shogunate has admitted to that. They are too much for your organization to handle. With demons on your trail, you would do well to wash your hands of Furies.
Isn't it up to us to decide whether they're a failure or not? We've done our own research on the water of life. I don't think it's your place to judge us, ma'am.
Then are you aware that the Shinsengumi's Furies have been murdering people on the street to test their strength? Ooh. What? For a split second, his cold mask dropped and I saw genuine confusion and dismay on his face. Then it was gone and he was cold and composed once again.
Where did you hear that?
I've no reason to tell you. All I can say is this. Rest assured, the source I'd received the information from is reliable. You have not been able to keep the water of life from driving your men mad. Your job is to protect the safety of the capital, correct? And yet your men roam the streets, killing innocent civilians. It disgusts me. Before this becomes common knowledge, I strongly suggest you disband the Fury Corps. Kimikiku's logic was sound. Hijikata had no counter-argument. Everyone in the room had fallen silent. But was it true? Were the Furies indeed cutting people down in the street for the thrill of killing? I mean, it's not that much of a stretch to imagine it's true. If the Fury Corps was disbanded, then Sana and Heisuke would... Every one of us waited for Hijikata's answer with bated breath. My heart roared in my ears. I suppose we can table this for the moment. There is something else I must discuss. With this, she turned and looked at me. Chizuru, will you please leave with us? What? I know we spoke before, but the situation has changed. You do understand that, don't you? Soon war will break out in Kyoto. If you are going to escape, this is your chance. I knew war was coming, but to hear the truth presented so baldly was jarring. Please, come with us. I don't believe the Shinsengumi will be able to protect you once the war begins.
Wait a minute. Are you suggesting we can't handle it?
The truth is sometimes hard to accept. If Kazuma returns, can you protect her from him? What if he comes to call while you are locked in battle elsewhere against the Satsuma and Choshu? Will you be able to protect her then? And in any event, she is a demon, not a human. She should be with her own kind. We can protect her. Under our protection, she can be ensured safe passage and a secure hiding place. She turned from Hijikata to face me once again. You see? You should come with us. If you leave, then they can concentrate wholly on the battles to come. Her words hit like blows, but she spoke the truth. War would soon break out, and perhaps remaining with the Shinsengumi would be dangerous for me and for them. I would be useless in war. I was no soldier. Even so, I wanted to stay. I looked over at Hijikata, hoping he might give me an answer. He only furrowed his brow and looked the other way, saying nothing. What was I to do? I have to leave, or I should leave. Well, if this is anything like Soji's route, this is probably the cutoff point for all the endings, both good and bad. Pardon me. I have to leave sounds very final. I should leave is kind of more reluctant. Maybe I should do I should leave? Give Toshi a chance to speak up? Speak up now, boy, or forever hold your peace. Or else I'm gonna peace out. I was sure Sen was right, and I should leave, but the words just couldn't come. In truth, I didn't want to leave. I hope that maybe someday all of the madness and war would end, and then I could be a human being, not a demon. What do you say, Chizuru? You really ought to leave. You'll be much safer with us. Her voice was kind, and I knew she had only my best interests at heart, but I still couldn't bring myself to respond. Hijikata, of course, saw straight through me.
You don't want to leave, do you?
Huh?
Then stay. What's there to think about?
But... is that really okay? If Kazuma came after me again... He's so angry when this butterfly lands on his heart. I said stay, gosh darn.
I'm not going to repeat myself. And what proof do you have that these two can keep you a secret any better than we can? Even if he wasn't after you, that bastard'd be an enemy of ours. If we've got the same enemies, it makes sense to me that we'd stick together.
He was as gruff as ever, but it wasn't hard to understand what he was trying to say. So, I can stay?
What the hell kind of question is that? If you were as much of a pain in the ass as you seem to think, I would have kicked you out a long time ago.
Relief flooded out across my body. Thank you so much. With war set to break out at any time, the Shinsengumi was changing. I didn't know how useful I could be to them once battle was begun. But even so, Hijikata told me it was okay to stay, so it must be so. So you've turned me down again then, have you? I'm sorry. It was very nice of you to offer, though.
Oh, it's all right. If you're so determined to stay, then what could I ever hope to do? There was one other tiny little thing I wanted to ask you. When you told me before that you were, interested in someone, did you perchance mean Hijikata?
Man, you saw right through me.
What?
I wasn't quite sure how to answer that question. Well, to be honest, I don't really know Hijikata that well, but... I stumbled over my words, not quite sure how to explain to her how I felt, perhaps because I wasn't quite sure myself. The men call him the demon, because he's so strict and harsh with the soldiers. A lot of people think that he doesn't care about anyone, and that he's cold, but I think he has a kind heart in there. He has a lot of responsibilities, and the whole Shinsengumi rides on his back. I don't think he has any choice but to act like that. I don't know what I can do for him, but I want to stay here and do whatever I can.
Well, I dare say he has captured you quite thoroughly.
Thanks for calling me out. What? I gave her a confused look, but Sen smiled and continued.
They say that my ancestor, Suzuka Gozen, fell in love with a human by the name of Tamaramaro Sakanoe and followed him to the capital.
A shogun during the Heian period, he defeated Suzuka Gozen, a female demon who lived in the Suzuka mountain, and he conquered the Tohoku region.
I am, in fact, their granddaughter, so I suppose I know something of how you feel. Circumstance and rank mean little before the power of love.
What? Wait, what? Love? I never meant... She's like, just admit it, girl. It's okay. You wouldn't be the first pure-blooded demon to fall for a human, is all I'm telling you. She only rested her hand on my shoulder and continued.
You may be two different creatures, human and demon, but do not think that means your love is doomed to failure. Best of luck to you, Chizuru. I shall be cheering for you.
Best wing, girl. My lady, we should go.
Oh, yes, you're right. Then I must take my leave, dear Chizuru. Do take care. You mustn't underestimate Kazuma. He is terribly powerful. If anything happens, feel free to call for me any time. If you need to reach me, please send a letter to Sumi.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye. In mere moments, they were gone. Circumstance and rank mean little before the power of love. But was this thing I felt, this desire to be close to Hijikata, was that really love? I just wanted to be around him, and help him, and gawk over his beautiful hair. Besides, the most important thing to Hijikata was the Shinsengumi. He'd built it up from nothing and put everything he was into it. With war against Satsuma and Choshu brewing, he hadn't the time to think of anything else. That being the case, as someone under the care of the Shinsengumi, I needed to think of how I could best put my own skills to use. As evening came, I was helping to prepare dinner at the Fushimi Magistrate. It seemed like the best course of action I had at this time was to prepare meals. I couldn't even prepare many of the side dishes, so all I could do was cook rice for them. But even then, I wanted to make eating easy for warriors who were constantly on the move, so I made rice balls and I handed them out. Has anyone not gotten any meals yet?
May I have one? May I have seconds?
Yes, of course. Have as many as you'd like.
Then can I have one too?
The warriors were ravenous, reaching out for the rice balls with their whet appetites. I had set some aside for the captains already, so I suppose it was alright. Once I'd passed them out, the rice balls were almost all gone in an instant. Eventually, it was down to the last rice ball in the basket. The warrior reaching out for it noticed it was the last and he stopped himself. There are more left, so please take it.
Thank you.
The young warrior had looked so excited as he grabbed it. Aww. I was going to use whatever was left over for my dinner, but there were no rice balls left at the end. Aw, that's how sad. Still, I was a lot happier knowing the warriors could eat instead of worrying about myself. I guess I'll hold out until the next meal. You and Toshi, between the two of you, you'll never eat anything. What? That was our stomach? Apparently my stomach just growled. Thank goodness no one was around to hear it. Maybe it's best if I drink some water. As I was heading to the kitchen, I suddenly heard a voice come from behind me. How are you always around at the most inopportune and opportune times?
Was that your stomach just now?
Hijikata? Where did he come from? And he even heard my stomach growl. That was...
It seems like the boys ate all the food. Did you eat?
I'll eat later. I'm fine.
Didn't ask if you were fine, I asked if you've eaten.
Well, no. Not yet. My voice was timid as I answered, and Hijikata sighed before taking something out of his pocket.
Jeez. Here you go.
What he had taken out of his pocket was one of the rice balls wrapped in a bamboo leaf that I had left out for the captains earlier. This should be yours, Hijikata.
Just shut up and eat it.
No. Hijikata, you should eat it instead. I refrained from grabbing it, but Hijikata gritted his teeth from being annoyed, and we both stared at the rice ball being offered. And at that moment, Soji came by and just took it off of Toshi's hands and just stuffed it in his mouth and went on his merry. Oh no, don't you dare... Oh, okay. Ah, sharing! There's a nice compromise I can get behind. Sharing is caring.
Don't tell me you're rejecting my kindness. Fine, here. We'll half it. You happy now?
He gruffly split the rice ball in half and then he handed it to me. The force of his hand as he reached towards me. It was a statement that he wasn't going to take no for an answer. I grabbed the rice ball from his hand. Thank you. Then I will take your offer and take your half. As soon as I grabbed the rice ball, Hijikata hastily bit into his half and scarfed it down. I saw him, and I too rushed to bite my rice ball. As soon as I'd swallowed my first bite, I nearly melted from the relief of eating. Sweet food, where have you been all my life? Phew. This is delicious. Despite Hijikata standing over me, the satisfaction of food entering my stomach prevailed. My eagerness made me a little self-conscious. Hijikata, however, seemed unfazed by it, and he spoke as he continued eating his rice ball.
Stop worrying about the others and eat the portion of food you deserve. Hear me.
Sorry. I'll be sure to do that next time.
I wasn't trying to lecture you.
Then he'd stopped chewing and muttered with chunks of rice in his mouth.
Thanks.
Don't worry. I'd rather it be eaten by the other men. I could always eat later. I'll be fine.
That's not what I'm talking about. I meant to say, thanks for sticking around.
Aww. Oh. Yes, I decided today to stay with the Shinsengumi. Despite Sen offering me a safe place to hide out, I had turned her down. I made the decision to stay beside this man right here. And Hijikata was happy about it too.
What's with the funny face? Hurry up and eat.
Okay. I was rushing to eat the rest of my rice ball, but suddenly I didn't feel so hungry anymore, as if another feeling made all others vanish. Wow, love is strong enough to push out the feeling of hunger. However, it seemed like Hijikata was just standing there watching me finish the rest of my rice ball.
Was that enough to eat?
Yes, I'm fine now.
I'm going to leave the compounds to you. Take care of this place.
What? Thank you. Okay, I'll do my best. I was so happy that Hijikata had entrusted me to watch the compound, so I couldn't help but straighten up as he spoke to me. And I think Hijikata flashed a quick grin when he saw that. He turned around and disappeared to the back of the building. I watched his back the whole time. You were looking a little lower than his back, girl. Don't deny it. I know you. Just before the beginning of the new year, Okita's condition worsened. It was determined that he had contracted pulmonary tuberculosis. His disease wasn't uncommon, but it was incurable. I'd suspected that he might be seriously ill when he began to lose his strength, but I'd never guessed that tuberculosis was the cause. The entire Shinsengumi was shocked and saddened by the news. It was decided that he was to head to Osaka, where Dr. Matsumoto was residing with Kondo, who also was in dire need of treatment. The new year came, and it was now 1868. Kyoto was still on high alert. The Shinsengumi remained on standby at the Fushimi Magistrate's office through the year-end celebrations. My hope that tempers would calm and the threat of war would fade lasted until 3 days after the new year. A dispute arose between the Satsuma domain and a group of shogunate troops attempting to enter Kyoto. Violence broke out, and suddenly, war was upon us. The shogunate army in Kyoto numbered roughly 15,000 men, while the Satsuma Choshu alliance commanded only 5,000. Victory for the shogun should have been a foregone conclusion. The Satsuma and Choshu, however, had bet their very livelihoods on this war, and determination and morale were high. Perhaps more importantly, the Satsuma had faced the British in battle, and the Choshu had faced the British, French, and Dutch. Both domains had learned modern Western tactics. Armed with only swords against the Satsuma and Choshu's rifles, the Shinsengumi were at a tremendous disadvantage. During the war, the Fushimi Magistrate's office was set on fire, and the Shinsengumi had no choice but to retreat from Kyoto.